show for all your latest UFC news and rumors. It's Brian Coyle. It's Sean Stanley. It's the TFM Live Podcast. And it's now.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the TFM Live Podcast. I am Brian Coyle, joined alongside Sean Stanley. We are part of the FullMountMMA.com, and we are excited to give you guys, if you've never heard us before, full preview of the biggest week in mixed martial arts history, UFC 200, just days away. Sean, how are you? Are you excited? And that's a stupid question because of course you're excited. This is going to be an awesome week in mixed martial arts.
Yeah, it's what everybody's been waiting for this, right? I mean, it's been one of the most talked about weeks of the year so far. So, you know, everybody's been gearing up for 200, but slowly you got the fight night card, the finale, all the build-up. There's also a press conference. There's so much going on this week. It's going to be great.
I completely forgot that Conor McGregor is going to be at that press conference. Was it Tuesday?
Yeah, I believe.
Wednesday?
No, it's the 7th. I believe it's the Thursday.
Oh,
it's the same day as the
Thursday.
fight night card. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's...
Yeah, because we talked about it last podcast because it was like, why not just build it up, make it Wednesday? Then you got a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But, hey, they must know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, they've built him up so well. So let's jump right in. We're going to start with the co-main event of Thursday's Fight Pass card. And that would be two heavyweights who are basically just going to stand in the Octagon and train until somebody falls over. Roy Nelson, Derek Lewis, and, I mean, as the great Jim Ross once said, we have a slobber knocker on our hands, man. This is going to be just one of those fights where you just sit back and go, these two dudes are about to beat each other up, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a fun fight, but I hope Dos Anjos and Alvarez are ready to go quick because I don't think this is going to go that long.
No, not for sure.
Because somehow, though, Nelson kind of, you look at him and you're like, oh, he's got no cardio, but somehow he keeps going. I don't know how or what he's doing, but when you look at both of these guys, I mean, Lewis looks to be in definitely better shape than Nelson, but that's not difficult to do, really. But Big Country always seems to have that, like, second, third, he's got multiple tanks there, and somehow he keeps going while because he punches. I would have punched myself out the way he punches.
Oh, completely. I mean, Nelson was able to take a beating from Josh Barnett, who most men would have fallen out easily in one of his previous fights, and he just kind of kept taking it, and it's still coming at him. Yeah. So it's hard to put away Big Country. You're right.
Yeah. But you know what? The one way to do it is KO or TKO. And 93% of the Black Beast fight, Derek Lewis fights in that way. That's pretty. When I looked at those numbers, I was like, wow, I just saw him right now and brought him up, and I'm like, 93% of his fights, he's 15-4-0, 93% of them are KO or TKO.
You can't do much better than that, honestly. The last time we saw Big Country, he beat Jared Rushholt, who's no longer in the UFC. In February, Lewis has won 3 in a row, beat Gabriel Gonzaga by knockout in April. I think this is Derek Lewis's fight to win. I think it's great that Roy Nelson is still fighting, and we still get the look of a guy who probably was drawn out of the crowd to fight in the Octagon. But I've got Derek Lewis here.
Yeah, he's the common man fighter, right? He's the commman guy fighter. Everybody I like him.
Dusty Rhodes, common man fighter.
He's the bull of the woods, baby.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
But you know what? It allows Derek Lewis, as you're saying, it allows Derek Lewis to fight. Like we were talking about before, like with your Dan Hendersons, although now he's proven us all wrong and he might get a title fight. But you have them fight names. Roy Nelson. You know that name. It's going to be a good fight. He beats him. He moves up in the rankings. It's building up Derek Lewis, and as you say, I believe it's his fight to lose.
Yes, so we're both picking Derek Lewis. I'm currently writing down our picks for all these previews because I have not been doing well in our little
not at all
challenge. I'm like 500, I think. So I'm going to try to make up some ground here.
And I went with you on one of the fights last week, and I lost. My only loss of the year.
Well, yeah, because we both thought Rory would actually come out.
Yeah,
and go for it.
Fooled us,
but. No, he definitely fooled us. So, in the co-main event, we're both picking Derek Lewis to beat Roy Nelson. And in heavyweight, you never know what could happen. So, he could get a big fight after this. And Roy Nelson, he's always down for a fight. So, I think he'll still be okay after a loss here. But I think it's pretty much Derek Lewis's fight.
Yeah, I think with his name, he'll stay. Nelson will stay in the UFC just because it allows the younger fighters a chance to fight, a known name. That's kind of like where Roy Nelson has found himself, the niche. He's found himself. If he wins, great. You might move up to 9 or 8. If you lose, well, then great, because we're moving this guy up past you. So I won't say a win-win because Nelson's kind of like trapped in this position, but it helps out the UFC.
Yeah, and just a reminder, Sean, you were up 2 fights on me. You're 5-1 going into UFC 200. I'm 3-3. We started this back at UFC 198. Just a quick reminder to everybody, if you've never listened to the show before, if you've never heard of us, we are part of the FullMountMMA.com. We have a website online covering the greatest and latest UFC news, rumors, complete fight breakdowns. We'll have fight breakdowns for pretty much all the major bouts for UFC 200. And you can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at The Full Mount, at VCoil11 for me, at SS Sports Talk. Want to get all that out of the way, Sean, because right now we are going to break down the lightweight championship fight, which is not getting enough love, mostly probably because it's on UFC Fight Pass. Rafael dos Anjos, Eddie Alvarez for the 155 belt.
Let's be serious. The reason it's not getting the love is because the champion, I don't think UFC knows how to market him because he's really just a great fighter.
Yeah, and let's jump into this. I wrote a whole preview you can find on the FullMountMMA.com where I basically broke down Dos Anjos and Alvarez, how each fighter wins. Of course, we got here because of the fact that Conor McGregor and Dos Anjos' fight fell out because of the Brazilian's broken foot. This will be Dos Anjos' second title defense after he absolutely annihilated Cowboy Cerrone last December. He took the belt from Pettis last year. Eddie Alvarez is a former lightweight champion in Bellator. And you know that because when you look at his UFC profile, all of a sudden he doesn't fight for 5 years. So, I'm just saying, it's very conspicuous by the UFC. He's looking to claim UFC gold for the first time. He's got split decision wins recently over Gil Melendez and Anthony Pettis. And I watched a couple fights of these guys back before I wrote this preview. Before we get into all that, how are you feeling about Dos Anjos coming off of a little bit of a layoff with that broken foot, missing out on that gigantic McGregor payday? What do you think his mindset is at going into this fight?
We talk about this all the time with the injuries and will they come back? And it seems like everybody comes back okay, except for one guy. He didn't come back quite the same, but it's hard to live up to that guy's billing coming back off a layoff. But Dos Anjos, it's a foot injury. You put weight on the foot. The different things, you're going to need that. Is he missed out on that payday? It's got to make him hungry because he's got to want to prove that, look, if I was there, I would have beat McGregor. So he's got to look good, at least to me. That's the thinking I would think. And plus, with the way these fighters are, they all got that, that alpha, gene to where they're always, just to fight each other. You got to have that to think that you're better than the other guy. But
completely.
The foot's going to be a thing. Is it? I got to think it's fully healed, or there's more to it because he pulled out of a big money fight because of the injury. And now he's doing this fight. Why would he, risk it to come back just to fight this fight if it wasn't healed? So, but is it going to be, does he deliver a kick or something and it re-injures? That's going to be something that you need to watch because once you can't put weight on foot, you're not going to be throwing your punches as hard. You're not going to be throwing as crisp. And then, you're going to be really a one-sided fighter.
Completely. When I look at this fight, I see one way for Eddie Alvarez to win. And I know he's unquestionably tough. I know he's a scrapper. He's a wrestler. He's a boxer. But when I see championship fights, and it would be, he's a major underdog. Dos Anjos, last time I saw, was minus 300 as a favorite. And I see Alvarez, the way he's got to do it, and to borrow your favorite line, Sean, he's got to make it ugly, because this is 5 rounds with an absolute machine when Dos Anjos is humming, and it's really tough to stop this guy. It has to be done through takedowns, through level changes, through suffocation, through all of these little things, to just a war of attrition. He's got to go at him repeatedly and not let him breathe. And the most important thing he has to do is not go up against the cage, because Dos Anjos is one of the greatest pressure fighters in the UFC today. Mm-hmm. He loves teeing off. He loves cornering. If he doesn't have to move his feet back and forth, he's got a little bit of slow feet. But I've noticed he kind of sticks his feet in the cement when he throws punches, when he throws kicks. He's not slick. He's not quick, but he's absolutely powerful as can be. And he just repeatedly punches, strikes over and over. In the middle of the octagon, you can kind of get away with it if you move back and forth, if that's what Alvarez wants to do. He's a boxer by trade. He knows he can kind of move in and out. But if you put yourself in a corner against Dos Anjos, you're asking for it, because, man, he is so devastating when it comes to those punches. Those are stone hands for a reason, and he's the champion for a reason. He made Cowboy Cerrone look like absolute it was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from Cowboy, and we just saw him completely eviscerate Patrick Cote back in Ottawa. So do you think Eddie Alvarez has a shot here? Because I think he does, but I'm picking Dos Anjos to win this fight.
See, here we go with this again. Because, see, look, the one thing Dos Anjos has is that he's been the champion. Because
yes.
We've all known that if you win the belt and you go to defend the belt, you're going to lose the belt. That's the way it falls. It's the way it falls. You win the belt, for some reason you change your fighting style, and you can't remember how to fight, so then you lose the belt. Dos Anjos comes in as the champion. You know, because Stipe Miocic has really, messed with me here, because
yes,
Dos Anjos, sometimes he's kind of, but because of it being this week and knowing that, okay, McGregor and them are probably going to be, I would think, maybe at this fight, with the press conference being there that day.
Connor's going to be talking about.
You know, they're going to be there. So does he come in like a bull in a china shop and then get caught?
I mean,
because that's pretty much, like you said, he's either going to have to make it ugly or he's going to have to catch him.
Completely.
And we've seen it to where, like, for some reason, I don't know if it's the camps or if it's the fighter themselves. Once they get in that octagon, it's like they like, oh, well, he knows I'm going to do this, so I'm going to try to do this. And then they end up getting caught. And I think Dos Anjos, I'm going to go with Dos Anjos, but I think Alvarez could, get that punch in, and we hear, well, it probably won't be Roe, doing it, but whoever is there, maybe Stan or whoever's doing the commentary at the Fight Pass thing, saying we have a new champion. I would not put it by it, but I don't think he's going to dominate Dos Anjos. It's going to be either like a quick, nail him and knock and get it over with, or he's going to have to keep it real ugly and somehow eke out a decision, which I don't think is going to happen with Dos Anjos. So I'm going to have to go with Dos Anjos.
We're definitely in agreement there. The thing with Dos Anjos is, and you mentioned the champion kind of thing, this is his second title defense. It's not his first title defense. So I kind of, the more they do it, I'm guessing it just kind of feels better as you're walking in as the champion. I watched back that Pettis fight for Alvarez. I wasn't that impressed with it, to be honest. And watching Dos Anjos go to work when he's at peak form, there's maybe nobody better at lightweight. And, I mean, he's a champion for a reason, but he can just be so devastating so quickly, and you cannot take a beating with him, because after a couple punches, you start to feel it really bad. And the only guy that I've ever seen to kind of contain Dos Anjos when it came to this was Khabib. So I think Alvarez isn't at that championship pedigree here yet, because he's only won 2 in a row, and they were both split decisions over Melendez and Pettis. And still in that Pettis fight, watching it back, it's like I just didn't see a champion in that fight. And I know that's just giving people like him more motivation. But I just like to see, if you're going to be a champion in the UFC, you just have to have a little bit more than that. And I just don't see him as a champion, at least not yet.
Yes, but this is also coming from the guy that didn't see Stipe Miocic walking out as champion as well. So, Eddie Alvarez, touche.
It's a shorter layoff than Verdum not defending the belt for a year. So I'm gonna go with Dos Anjos.
Touche, my friend, touche.
Feel comfortable about it.
Yeah.
And hopefully we get that fight between McGregor and, as the Irishman likes to say, a bum version of Jose Aldo. He ain't a bum version of Jose Aldo, I'll tell you that much. It's really impressive to watch Dos Anjos, and he can really make a statement to the whole lightweight division. I predicted in the preview that you can read online, 3rd round knockout. Alvarez is a tough son of a gun, but I just don't think he can hold up against the power of Rafael Dos Anjos. Okay, moving on to Friday, the TUF 23 finale. We want to go over 2 fights here. We've got a debut in the UFC in the co-main event of that card. Will Brooks, the former Bellator lightweight champion, makes his UFC debut against Ross, the real deal Pearson. And Brooks, it's his first time in the UFC. He's going to be hyped up, ready to go. He's part of American Top Team. We've seen him in Bellator. We didn't see him a lot because of – it just seemed like he didn't fight a lot because of acrimony between him and the promotion. What do you see? Are you expecting a lights-out debut for him? Or do you think this could be a signing by the UFC and then he fights Ross Pearson, who – loves trading wins back and forth with every single fight that he has, apparently. Mm-hmm. And is this going to be a successful debut for Will Brooks?
I mean, I think he's got the perfect person to put in front, because Ross is not going to he's going to fight. So I think, it's going to be up to Brooks if he's going to bring it or not. I guess you're going to get to see what he's going to bring to the UFC. I mean, should he win? I mean, definitely. I mean, but
yes,
will he? The bright lights, I guess, as you call it. But I mean, he's done these events. He's done. He was a couple Bellator, I guess, events, but I think they put him in there kind of with that perfect person to kind of make the debut and make a exciting debut too.
Yeah. Will Brooks facing off against Pearson. Pearson 4-4. In his last 8 fights.
Yep.
And he's the kind of guy that will stand and trade, and we'll get to see Brooks, what he kind of can do. 47% of his fights have gone to decision. I think this one will go to decision as well.
Yep.
So,
although I think he needs to have a stop. I'm not saying he's got to knock him out, submit. I think he needs to make a statement.
I think so too. I
mean, again, Pearson is tough, so I'm not going to say it's easy to where he just has not. But I think he's got to if he wins by decision, it's got to be a dominating decision
for his career, and if he wants to launch himself into that absolutely killer lightweight division, I think he needs to make a statement, and he's got the opportunity. It will be on Fox Sports 1, so it's not on a Fight Pass card where you'll have a limited built-in audience.
It's a semi-main too. I mean, they're putting him up. It's not like they hit him down on the card. He's right there, semi-main event.
Yeah, I think we get a win from Will Brooks. Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I mean, unless he totally. It's not a title fight, so he can't Donald Cerrone it. But if he could,
shade. Jeez.
Well, no, because I mean, look, Donald Cerrone. Every other fight, you look at him and you go, that guy can be a champion. Then he got in there and didn't. Will Brooks show up? I think he will, and I think Pearson was a hand-picked perfect opponent for this, because he's not going to back down from him either. So he's going to test Brooks, but I think Brooks will walk out with the victory.
We're in agreement there. So far, this is scaring me, Sean.
It's scaring you. It's scaring me.
We're all in agreement. But now I think that might change a little bit. The Ultimate Fighter finale main event in one of the most hated rivalries in the UFC. I haven't been able to catch that much of the Ultimate Fighter this season.
Either have I.
Every time I do, my goodness, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Claudia Gadelha, they're at each other's throats.
Yeah, no, it's been at least from what I've seen in the, the previews and things like that, I'm like, I got to watch it, and I just haven't done it yet. Maybe I'll binge watch it this week leading up to this fight.
I think that's a great idea. The champion, Jędrzejczyk, the last time, this will be the second fight between the two, it was very, 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 very close. Joanna came out victorious out of that. Then she went on to beat Carla Esparza via second-round knockout to win the strawweight belt, beat Jessica Penne, and not that she had trouble with Valerie Letourneau back in November, but it took a decision where many of us believed that she would easily take care of the Canadian. When I'm looking at this fight, I see the similar styles. They both like to brawl. How do you feel? What's your feel on this fight? Is it going to be one of those things that they're just going to go and anything can happen? Or is there more strategy involved on either side?
That's where I think people are going to have a problem with this fight, because you've watched Ultimate Fighter. They're going to kill each other and get in there and they're going to rip each other apart. And it's going to turn into strategy. And then you're going to be like, what's going on? Because neither one of them are going to want to make that calculated. They're going to make calculated moves. Nobody wants to make that uncalculated risk and get beat. It's going to be one of those fights. It's going to be one of those fights, I believe. It's going to be a chess match for a while. Do I think, maybe if Gadelha gets hit in the face real quick, boom, maybe for a minute she'll get, and then once everything, I think the corner will get them simmered back down. They're going to have to control their emotions, because do I think they want to kill each other? Probably, yes.
Yeah.
But that's when you duck down your guard, you try to, again, but maybe one of them tries to use that to their advantage and bring the opponent in to make it that kind of fight so that, they can get the upper hand. So it's going to be interesting, but I think it's going to be more of a calculated strategy match more than they're going to go out there and just, maybe at the beginning they come out there and they start throwing some blows, but I think if it lasts long enough to where it can wind down, it's going to turn into a more calculated fight.
You have the Muay Thai advantage, obviously. Jędrzejczyk, several Muay Thai champion, one of the most volume striker, power striker. She's relentless. She never stops. She goes over and over and over again. Gadelha on the other side's a pressure fighter.
Yep.
Just like when we were describing with Dos Anjos, she's a pit bull. She's going to come at you over and over and over again. There's one weakness here, and I think it's going to be the difference in this fight. As you mentioned, if they don't go at each other and just slug it out for 2 rounds and somebody drops, Gadelha on the mat is absolutely incredible. She's got that advantage on the ground, and if she can basically smother Jędrzejczyk, kind of go inside the clinch where Gadelha thrives at, kind of throw some elbows, get inside, push her to the ground, and make this fight more painful than Jędrzejczyk's ever had to experience, because she's always trading, she's always on her feet, and if she takes this fight to the ground, I think Gadelha's got a major advantage. I think this could be the best fight. I mean, it's got the opportunity to be the best fight of the weekend, which is saying something, given all of the matchups that we have on UFC 200 and the previous Fight Pass card as well. I think this is the fight of the night for sure. I think this is the fight of the week when it comes to Thursday, Friday. And I think Claudia Gadelha comes out as the new strawweight champion. She's currently the underdog plus 120, Jędrzejczyk minus 140. It's incredibly close. I think she wins by decision. Are we differing for the first time here, Sean, or are we on the same page here?
No, we're differing. I got Jędrzejczyk because I think the Muay Thai thing, she keeps it at a distance, doesn't allow Gadelha to smother her, and either catches her with something because Gadelha has to dive in and catches her, or just gets an ugly decision. I don't think it's going to be as exciting. I think as a MMA fan, it's going to be a great fight. For a casual fan, I don't think it's going to be such a great fight because you're going to see somebody using a skill to keep the other fighter from being able to capitalize on the skill they have. And that is the chess match I think is going to unfold. And I think Jędrzejczyk will walk out still the champion.
I think the advantage here is that it's a 5-round fight. I think that.
Yeah, but see, sometimes that plays into it because you can keep them at a distance for a while. Then they got to start. You lose 2 rounds and possibly a third is close. You're going to have Gadelha start diving in or trying to get in, and then I think that's when you can possibly set her up for ending the night.
I mean, I can't disagree with you on that because either way, somebody could get desperate 4th round, 5th round, and it could lead to a stoppage that we're not expecting.
Well, I think what it's going to come down to is one of 2 things. If Gadelha gets in, as you predicted with her winning,
yes,
Jędrzejczyk's going to have to just start throwing, whatever she's going to do to try to win. Gadelha could just take her down and. I mean, Gadelha's great with submissions too, so she could submit her quickly if she gets her down. But I think if she can if Jędrzejczyk can implement her game plan, which I hope her game plan is keeping her at a distance. It's so funny because the Ultimate Fighter, how much is that really going to? We've seen these happen before with these Ultimate Fighter coaches, and some fights have turned into a calculated strategy fest where you thought it was going to be, and some have turned into what was expected and just turned into a slugfest. So what we get here really is going to be interesting because both of them are so different as far as the philosophy for them winning, at least looking at it and breaking down the fight. But if they just go in there and start slugging away, all that's out the window.
Oh, you just throw everything out the window.
Yeah, I mean, it's just whoever lands that last punch.
It's like watching when we saw Steve Bossy and in that fight when they're and O'Donnell and just kind of just going back and forth and just slugging it out for 50 seconds straight, just punching each other in the face. That's a real possibility of somebody gets too hot-headed, somebody goes in for a bad mistake, and they just start throwing, and somebody gets caught. Like you mentioned, there's a very real possibility Gadelha flies in for a takedown after getting too heated, and Jędrzejczyk throws a knee, and it's over.
Yeah, and the same thing can happen with Jędrzejczyk going in, getting too close to Gadelha, she taking her down, and she could end it quickly. I mean, there's just so many possibilities in this. It's almost who's going to be able to implement their strategy, or is there a strategy? We're sitting here talking strategies. This may turn into just a slugfest.
Yeah, this has the ability to be like just one of those fights where you look back 6 months later and we're like, wow, that happened, and that was absolutely amazing. These 2 women are going to go at it on Friday night, and it's going to be one of the best fights. I still think, regardless of whether it's one of those beat 'em up, it just goes for it, or if it's one of these tactical battles where both are able to keep their cool and we get to see the 2 best at 115 pounds in the world go at it. I think, bar none, it will be great. You've got Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I've got Claudia Gadelha in that fight. The first differing fight of the card. So we're going to have some differences on the UFC 200 card, I believe, as well, Sean. So don't worry.
No, this won't be the first difference. This won't be the first, I'm sure.
Just a reminder for everybody, if you want more information on these fight previews, we're going to have written fight previews for the Jędrzejczyk Gadelha fight, for multiple fights on UFC 200, all of the main card and a couple of the prelim cards as well, a couple of prelim fights as well that you can find on the fullmountmma.com. We'll be tweeting about the fights all week. You can follow us at BCoyle11, at SS Sports Talk, at the Full Mount for every article and any news, any crazy news, fight replacements. Hopefully everyone stays healthy, but things always change in the UFC, so we'll have plenty of news on that as we get closer to UFC 200 Saturday, July 9th on pay-per-view live from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada.
For all your latest news and rumors of the UFC, go to thefullmountmma.com. Now back to the TFM Live podcast. Here's Brian Coyle and Sean Stanley.
Welcome back, everybody, to TFM Live, the official podcast of thefullmountmma.com. Brian Coyle, Sean Stanley, talking UFC 200 now, jumping into the biggest event in the history of mixed martial arts. And, Sean, this card is absolutely loaded. We're just going to mention quickly the UFC Fight Pass early prelims because of time constraints here.
And what's funny is this could be probably a pretty good card on its own.
Oh, completely. This is absolutely this is absolute insanity right here. Takanori Gomi, Jim Miller. Because why not? Let's get these two guys back fighting each other. And why not? There's old fan favorites. They're going to put on a fun fight. We don't know what their future is in the UFC.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun, exciting fight to start the night. That's what they are. They are the first card of the night, basically getting the crowd going.
And you want to talk about getting the crowd going. Gegard Mousasi has completed his heel turn against the UFC fans, it seems like, after his win over in London in February. And he's going to get a very interesting opponent. It's not going to be Derek Brunson, who had to pull out of the fight. He's going to get Thiago Santos, who, if you've watched recently, this guy's got a lot of potential. He's the number 15th ranked middleweight right now. He's 13-3. He beat Elias Theodoro. He's beaten Steve Bossy. He took care of Nate Marquardt so quickly back at UFC 198.
Yeah, so quickly he was able to take this fight too.
I think that's an upset, but that's the first potential upset of the night. Santos is one of those guys you might want to watch out for in a couple fights because he could be getting some bigger names at middleweight if he can take down Gegard Mousasi, and Mousasi would fall victim to another upset a la Uriah Hall a couple of months ago. Yep. Jumping into the prelims card that you will see on Fox Sports 1. Super Sage Northcutt gets local talent in his first big fight. No, he actually fights Enrique Marin of the Ultimate Fighter Latin America fame. I know, Sean, you've been glued to the Ultimate Fighter Latin America too.
Oh, yes. I ordered a channel just so I could watch it.
Yes. Enrique Marin. Listen, if Sage doesn't beat this guy, we've got an issue here for your Super Sage Northcutt.
Yeah, he's not so super.
Pushes.
He's not so super. But you did. I'm sorry, real quick though, but you skipped over a fight in the Fight Pass. I don't want to,
I wanted to do that on purpose because I knew your reaction would be. Diego Sanchez and Joe Lozon.
You set me up. That's messed up, man. I thought we were coming together and having a chemistry here, and now you're setting me up like this.
Yes, because this could be the best fight of the night. Sanchez Guida, I've mentioned it many times in this podcast, is my favorite fight of all time. Yeah. These two dudes are going to leave it all in the line on Fight Pass.
Yeah, they have nothing to lose. And they're known to just fight. And both of them love to fight. You know, the worst part about it is they may have to change the canvas when this fight is over.
I was just about to say that canvas might not be white or gray. That canvas could be spots of red all over the place. These are two of the, these are fan favorites. These guys know how to get a crowd on their feet. They're going to launch this card. Hopefully people show up early because, man, you have to watch this fight. This is worth buying Fight Pass just for this fight.
Look, normally I tell you, look, don't get there early for the Fight Pass. Probably the prelims till the middle. You better get there at 5:30. Be in your seat at 6:30 their time.
Yep.
And ready to go because starting with fight one, this is an action-packed card. I mean, usually, you may get a main event on the Fight Pass that's like, oh, okay, I want to watch those guys. And, there's not one fight on here that I would say, no, let's look, we can go to the soda. We can go get a soda at this time. I'm looking for the guy that's walking with the sodas. That's what I'm doing at this card because I'm not leaving my seat.
There's no reason to. Sanchez, so high paced, he will just go and go and go. Lozon, he knocks people out. He finishes people. Like this is what he does. Yeah. And this could be the fight of the night.
I just think that they have nothing to lose. They have nothing to gain. It's not like either of them are going to jump up into the standings beating each other. They're just going to go out there and be like, the only thing they can really do is go for fight of the night, or knockout of the night, or submission of the night. That's what they're going for. Both of them. That's what they're going for.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun. Do you want to pick those fights? You want to add them to the list of?
No, because I don't know which. Those fights are a little bit more harder to pick than. I don't like picking the fights where they just stand there and punch each other in the face.
Yeah, those ones are rough. What we can do is are we both picking Sage Northcutt over Enrique Marin? Because I can give you that one if you want.
No, I mean, I'll take Northcutt because I think, as you say, if he doesn't beat him, this super is not so duper.
Yes, absolutely. Northcutt needs this win. I know he had the illness on that UFC Newark card when he lost to Brian Barberena.
Yeah, that makes no sense. He outclassed him in that fight, man. I don't care.
And Barberena looked really good when he was fighting in Brazil too.
Mm-hmm.
He's one guy not to sleep on for sure. Let's jump into one of the most intriguing bouts of the night, at least to me. TJ Dillashaw, Rafael Assunção. 135 pounds bantamweight. Dillashaw, who wanted a rematch after losing the title to Dominic Cruz, did not get that. Instead, we got Uriah Faber getting beat up.
All right, woohoo!
We got Uriah Faber getting beat up by Cruz for 5 rounds. So now we get Dillashaw, who, with a win here, obviously should get a rematch. Javier Assunção has been out for a while with a multitude of injuries, a rib injury, ankle injury. How do you see? I mean, this guy's been out for a while. We talked about those Anjos earlier in the pod with an injury that just kind of kept him out 6 weeks.
Yep.
Assunção has been all over the place, and we haven't seen him in a long time. He's been inactive since 2014.
Yep.
What's going to happen with him?
See, this is where we go back to this dilemma that we have here on the show.
Yeah.
Does he come back how he looked before? Does he get the ring rust, which apparently we're told there's really no such thing as ring rust. It's just the mentality. And then you got TJ Dillashaw over here on the side fighting the unknown, but he's got to come out and make a statement, and it's you don't know what you can get from Assunção. So I you know what? I mean, I think Dillashaw should be able to take this one. But again, we don't know what we're going to get from Assunção. Is it going to be the number 3 fighter in the world, or is it going to be the guy that's had almost 2 years, a year and a half, whatever it is, off?
I think. Continue.
No. So, but I mean, again, you're facing the number 1 ranked, 135 fighter right now. So it's not like you're coming back to. Fight, some guy just to have a fight. He's got to come in and make a statement as well. So Assunção's got a lot more, I think. Actually, it makes this fight really for both fighters mean something, because if Assunção can come in and of course beat Dillashaw, I'd probably put him right in line for the next title fight. But Dillashaw is trying to prove that he deserves the next title fight, which he should get if he defeats Assunção.
Assunção was technically on a 7-fight winning streak, and he's beaten TJ Dillashaw before. That was back in 2013, however. And like you mentioned, he's been inactive for a while, and I think the worst type of fighter to fight off of a long layoff like this is someone like TJ Dillashaw. The speed, the pressure from the onset is what you'll get from him, the tempo that he'll set. I don't know if Assunção's cardio will be up for the task at all, even if he was at full strength. Dillashaw is a much better fighter than he was a couple years ago when they first tangled in the Octagon here. The striking, I think, is much better for Dillashaw. I think the grappling's better. He's got an advantage, Assunção, on the ground when it comes to submissions, because we've seen that more from him. But the only reason why Dillashaw was unable to beat Dominic Cruz is because he couldn't out Dominic Cruz. Yeah, Assunção is not that type of fighter. I think Dillashaw can use that strategy once again, and I think we're looking at a overwhelming decision victory for TJ Dillashaw in this bout. What do you think?
I think the ring rust will get to us inside. I think Dillashaw's gonna get a stoppage.
So it's good. We're in agreement again.
Yes, unfortunately. Here we go.
This is fun.
This
is really fun. All right, then let's see about this one. We've got multiple ring rusts coming off of this, essentially, if you want to look at it this way. Johnny Hendricks and Kelvin Gastelum. Major injury layoffs for both of them previously. It was a bad loss for Hendricks against Wonderboy Thompson, where he looked not like the welterweight champion of old. He had the weight cutting problem. And meanwhile, Kelvin Gastelum, who is 12-2, he's the number 12 ranked welterweight in the world right now, according to the UFC rankings. But he's coming off a loss to Neil Magny. He lost to Tyron Woodley in 2015. He lost to Nate Marquardt. Or he beat Nate Marquardt. He beat Jake Ellenberger. So these aren't like names when you look at it, wow, Gastelum's been on a tear. No, he's kind of just been around. He's got a lot of potential. And this is a major fight for him, because if he wants to jump in, when welterweight's getting deeper and deeper by the day, I mean, who knows what could happen when you see, like, what monkey wrench is GSP going to throw into that division? Are there guys going to be dropping? Like, this is a fight for Gastelum where he's got to win to jump into the title picture, or jump into being even talked about in the top 10, because if not, then you're kind of just falling away into the shadows here. And for Hendricks, this is a former champion here, people. This is not just anybody. And can he even push it at 175 pounds anymore? This is a fight with major stakes, even though it's probably the least talked about fight on the preliminary to main card. What do you see out of this fight? Where do you see these guys going in this bout?
I mean, you've kind of hit the nail on the head. They're both trying to get that, Hendricks is trying to get back to where he was. Gastelum's trying to get to where Hendricks was. It's intriguing on a lot of these undercard fights, because you're looking at guys that are, like, you look at the fights and you're like, okay, all right, that's going to be a good fight. But they got a lot. Potentially they have a lot on the line for their futures in the UFC. If Gastelum loses this fight and loses bad, I don't know where his contract stands right now, but does he get, re-signed, or they move on from him? Things like that. Those are what these guys are fighting for, and they're going to be fighting on a big stage. You're talking the undercard. Yeah, we're on FS1. No, you're on the undercard of UFC 200.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is where, usually I would say, it's just a prelim, it's FS1 fight. But all these fights are going to have so much impact on these fighters' careers. As you said, Gastelum, if he looks bad in this fight, does UFC just go, it's time for a change? At least Hendricks has got a name.
Yeah.
I don't think Gastelum has that name yet to where, he can stick around. I don't think he makes a cut if he loses this one bad.
And speaking of cuts, this weight cut is brutal for both of these guys.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, Hendricks, his body almost shut down before that Tyron Woodley fight in October.
But I think he's done better to get himself at a. I mean, he was trying to drop how much weight was it that went when he was trying to drop a tremendous amount, right?
It was something insane.
Yeah,
and Gastelum missed weight against Woodley in 2015.
Yeah.
So what are these guys going to look like the day before?
Well, not only that, but now aren't they doing they're doing the weight in the morning now, right? Correct me. Are they doing that now? Has that started yet?
Vegas has adopted that. I don't know if Las Vegas has adopted.
Okay. So I know the last fights they did the morning.
Yes, because that in Canada they allowed that.
In Canada, okay.
And the California Commission allowed that as well. I'm going to have to confirm that for you. But who do you have in this fight and why? Because it's one of those things where, is it actually going to work? Like, is this going to be a dynamic performance for somebody? Or is this going to be one of those where we watch this fight and we go, well, that's over with?
I honestly believe that's what it's going to be.
Really?
Yes, because Again, we sat there when we did, what was it, Arlovsky and Mir, wasn't it? The heavyweight fight?
Yes.
And neither one of them wanted to make that move to where they would lose. And I have a feeling that's what's going to happen here. I'm not saying that somebody's not going to be able to get caught with something, but I think up until the point to where the ending is near, if somebody catches somebody or something like that, I just think they're going to, because again, both these fighters have a lot to lose. And they also could gain a lot if they look impressive. So, but looking at past fights and how it played out when you had so much on the line for your career, I see this as being one of those fights where it's like, man, what could have been, but it not going to happen, because I believe Gastelum understands that, hey, if I lose this fight, I may be on the outside of the UFC looking in.
And just to confirm, the starting with UFC 200, Nevada is adopting that the earlier weight cut, so they'll weigh in the morning, between 8 and 10 a.m.
And then if they need to cut, they still have a certain amount of time, right? If they don't make the weight?
If they don't make the weight, there is no opportunity for a second cut.
There is no, okay, that's what it was. Okay.
That's different. If a fighter misses weight in the morning, he or she will not have a second chance to make weight in the afternoon.
So I would be interested to see where these guys are right now at their weight.
Yeah, because especially with these two having weight cut problems earlier, if they don't kind of go with their normal, because their normal weight cut apparently didn't work for both of them the past couple years. So they had to change something, and Hendricks was able to make weight against Wonder Boy, but he did not look like Johnny Hendricks. He did not look like that. But I think that guy who was the champ.
Yeah, but I think now, maybe with the morning weight, and then he can have, full 24 and some change, I think maybe bodies may react a little bit differently. But again, this is where you get into that thing where, like, you got to lose that weight to get there, but there's more to it than just once you get there, then you got to perform. Does your body react the way you think it's going to react? Because as you said, against Thompson, he didn't look like the champion that we'd seen before. And how much of that had to do with how much he had to cut?
For sure, man. Who you got in this one?
I've not been impressed by Gastelum, so I'm just going to go with Hendricks.
We're in agreement again, Sean.
I mean, he's got a great record, 12-2, but nothing about him stands out to me, man. It's almost,
he hasn't been dynamic enough.
Yeah, it's almost. I mean, not to say like, I think he's a good fighter. I just don't know if he's, at that where he's just to beat Hendricks. But then again, neither of them make weight. The fight gets scratched or gets to a what is it, a catch weight, and then everything could change.
Moving on to the final prelim fight for UFC 200. Kat Zingano, Juliana Pena, the number 3 and number 5 respectively ranked women's bantamweights in the world. We have a potential here. We don't know when Rousey's coming back. We don't know what the deal is with Holly Holm's future championship potentials. We could be looking at the next challenger to the women's bantamweight title in this fight. We haven't seen Kat Zingano since the 14-second loss against Ronda Rousey in February of last year. Pena is the season 18 winner of The Ultimate Fighter. She's 3-0 inside the Octagon, and beating Zingano could probably potentially push her to a title shot. Amanda Nunes got that title shot after not that impressive of a performance against Valentina Shevchenko. This is a very interesting bout because of Zingano's return. She's a very polished striker. She can do a lot of different things. I think she's got the advantage in this fight. What are your feelings on Zingano versus Pena?
I don't think she's over the that loss. I don't see how you can get over. And I know it's been a while, but still, man, I mean, that fight was so hyped up to last, 14 seconds, was it?
Yeah, 14 seconds.
I mean, that's just not something that I think you can get over until, again, you have to have another fight. I mean, so could this be the fight? I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'm going with Pena.
Going with Juliana Pena.
Yes,
Is it one of those situations where I mean, she has been out of action for so long. And jumping right into the octagon, I mean, I'm ready to go. And you pull an Aldo, for lack of a better term, and you just dive in and you get punched and lights out, game over. Zingano's going to have to control her emotions and fighting for the first time since that Rousey fight, and fight like she can, like fight for this elite fighter that she is.
Yeah.
And not get
but
too
Pena's
hyped up.
not that much of a pushover. I mean, she's not as seasoned as, Zingano and things like that, but she's been very, very impressive to me. And I think she's going to be able to, I won't say, dominate Zingano, but I think she's going to be able to frustrate Zingano enough to where I think some of that Rousey fight's going to get back into her head, and she's going to lose a little bit of confidence, and then that's when Pena's going to be able to take charge and get a decision, probably victory in this fight.
Pena's got that one-punch knockout power, too.
She does, but I think, again, I think with these prelim fights, there's so much on the line, and you got returns, and you got there's so much to go. Normally with Kat Zingano, I would say, look, she could probably walk in, Pena nails her with a punch. But she does the same thing that she did with Rousey. I think you flip that, and I think she becomes hesitant, which is not what Zingano is, which is why I think Pena could have an advantage in this, because I don't think you're going to see the same Zingano you've seen before because of that 14-second loss.
That's a great point. I hope, because we know what kind of fighter she's beaten. Misha Tate. She's got an incredible resume.
No, she is incredible. One loss. The one loss is to Rousey. I mean, it's not like she lost to somebody else. I just think, from my standpoint, is that I don't know if she's that recovered from. Look how long it's taken her to really bounce back. I mean, I guess if you want to call it that, but
it's true.
If Pena can frustrate her enough to where she starts thinking and she's not Zingano, then I just think Pena can take this. And this would be a big feather in the cap for Pena. And I think she's she's so young into her career that she's going to see that and her camp's going to have her ready to go. And I just think it's FS1, UFC 200. What better spotlight to say, hey, Juliana Pena has arrived.
I think the one problem with Pena is the gas tank. And Zingano, if she is who she is and fights the way she's thrived at, she'll take her down, she'll go for the submissions, she'll run her over, she'll make sure that Pena does not have this ability come late second round, early third round to do the type of stuff that you're talking about with her power and with her striking ability. I think Zingano is able to hustle through this one. I think it's going to be a little touch and go in the beginning because of that adrenaline rush that she's going to get jumping right in. But I have Kat Zingano in this fight. I'm confident in it, and I think we're looking at a Zingano-Tate fight before Rousey comes back. Because we don't know when that's going to happen.
We shall see, my friend. We shall see.
Now we're going to jump to the main card of UFC 200.
You know what that means, right?
What's that mean?
In this Mr. Rousey?
This is Mr.
So we have a Rousey on the card, a Rousey on the 200 card.
Travis Brown, Cain Velasquez kicks off UFC 200.
Hey, you guys are first match. Open up for us, guys.
First of all, Cain Velasquez is kicking off a pay-per-view card. All right, that's okay. He's the guy who he beat for the UFC heavyweight title originally is fighting in a higher spot than him.
Yep.
But we'll get to Brock Lesnar in a little bit.
Who?
The beast, the jacked up white boy, as he put himself.
Yeah, as he put himself.
At that media call a couple of weeks ago. And we'll talk about that as well when we get to that fight. Cain Velasquez, Travis Brown, heavyweight bout. This is an intriguing fight to me because of all of the heavyweights that we've seen come through the fight game, nobody's had more potential than Cain Velasquez when it comes to the sport of mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
We've seen this guy over and over look like a world beater and a guy who can be one of the best heavyweights of all time. The problem is he's been hurt repeatedly over and over. And now what are we going to see out of this Cain Velasquez? He had the back injury. He's had more injuries than we can probably count at this point. And it looks like he's healthy from all indications.
But haven't we said that before? And then he gets into the fight and we find out that, he fought with a dislocated disc in his back or what, there's always, seems like after the fights you find out that he's fighting injured.
He's 13-2. Of course, he lost the title to Fabricio Verdum in Mexico City back in June of last year, where he did not look like Cardiac Cain whatsoever.
He looked
like the complete. he looked like a guy who had not adjusted at altitude very well. And previously, before that, remember, he was out for a year and a half. He defended his title against Junior Dos Santos. He'd beaten Bigfoot Silva. Of course, he won the title from Lesnar back in 2010. Wow, it's 6 years ago.
Well, that's what I thought when everybody was talking about Lesnar. I was like, it hasn't been that long since he's been gone. And I'm like, oh, man, okay. But anyway, back to Velasquez Brown, sorry.
The way this kind of looks like, on paper, it looks like striker grappler, right? You see Brown, who just slugs it out. And you see Cain, who's much more of an all-around complete fighter. He
is, but when you look at what threw me off right here, I'm looking at a percentage of wins and stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't 85% KO TKO.
Yeah, Cain can slug it.
I was like, wait a minute, this might turn into a slobber knocker as well to start off the fight, to start off UFC 200. We may have two heavyweights in the ring just slugging it out.
Yeah, and I mean that's what they can hope for.
Yeah,
at least
I don't
for that.
think they're going to get that. But
remember, Travis Brown 18-3-1, and as much crap as we give Brown for, the Mr. Rousey stuff he hears all the time from every which way possible. The Matt Mitrione fight was an absolute travesty. Man, that was ugly to watch. The eye pokes, the refereeing that fight was bad.
Yeah.
It made Matt Mitrione think he was actually a good heavyweight. It was just all over the place.
It got him a good contract with another organization.
You see Mitrione's last fight in Bellator?
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about it.
Yeah,
It was, but this is Brown in that fight against Arlovsky when they just kind of went for it. Brown is a fun fighter to watch when he's on. And, he's beaten Josh Barnett. He's beaten Overeem. He's beaten these big names, but he hasn't been able to put it together in a big fight. And this is one of these opportunities. You're kicking off the 200 card. Heavyweight is an amorphous blob when rankings come out, and you don't know where these guys are going.
They just roll dice and, okay, Vasquez came up this time. All right, put him up there.
So there's a legitimate chance here. If you win this fight, you could end up as the next challenger for the heavyweight title. It's because of just the way things can happen. And with Cain, I think this is his fight to lose. He's obviously got the advantage when it comes to the grappler. He takes people down left and right. He's an AKA product. He works with Cormier every day. This is if this is one of those fights that Velasquez is taking him down over and over. It's there's no question this fight's going to be over. He's the far superior grappler. He's got the advantage on the ground. He's got the submission advantage. He's got some great submission advantage defense. And I'm all describing these things that would make you believe that Travis Brown has no shot in this fight. He has a shot in this fight. It just relies on him standing up to be able to win this fight. The stiffness that we've seen from Velasquez because of the injuries can change this fight. We don't know how he's going to be. Brown has to be able to find that opening and go for that flurry like he did against Arlovsky, to go for these punches and these strikes over and over again. How do you see a path to victory for Travis Brown here? Or am I off base and you think he's got the advantage here?
No, I don't think he has the advantage, but I am going with Travis Brown in this fight. I don't think he has the advantage to win, but I think he's got that puncher's chance, and I think he's due. And
you think
I think he gets the interview, the first interview of UFC 200 to announce that he is Travis Browne and not Mr. Rousey.
And is this more? Is that pick more because of who Travis Browne is, or more because of what Velasquez is at this point, and we don't know when it comes to injuries and all that? Do you believe in Travis Browne, or do you not believe in Cain Velasquez?
I think it's more I don't believe in Cain Velasquez, but at the same time, I think Travis Browne has shown glimpses to where you're like, I mean, when I was I looked at the record and I'm like, wait, 18? That's all. He's only lost 3. To me, I thought he lost more than that. Honestly,
it has that feeling, right?
Yeah, and I'm like,
see him
really 18-3. And I look back and you start looking back at some of the things, like you said, Overeem. You know, you start looking at the glimpses have been there.
He's got that ability.
He just and I think
the frustrating thing in the world.
And I really think Velasquez, again, this is UFC 200. You're opening up the biggest pay-per-view. And I just think the juices are going to be flowing. They're going to come out, and I just think Brown's going to be able to take Velasquez out.
I've got Velasquez in this fight because I think hopefully he's finally healthy. I'm betting on Cain being able to show us some of that guy. Maybe he's a little motivated with Brock on the card. This is a major opportunity for him. It's kind of I don't want to say a slap in the face, but you got to have some motivation saying, like, I was one of the biggest heavyweight champs of the in the world in the UFC, and I'm kicking off UFC 200. Like, what is this BS? Like you got to have a little bit of motivation. Cormier's in the card as well. He's going to want to make sure those guys are tight. I think everything kind of goes towards Velasquez in this fight. I think Brown's definitely got a shot, as you mentioned. It's just going to have to be in a stand-up. And I don't think Cain will 100%.
100% it's going to be in the stand-up. But see, I think that's where you're wrong, because Cain's going to have to – I think he feels – as you said, he feels slighted that he's opening this pay-per-view, possibly, or he should, or at least I'm thinking that. So I think he's going to want to make a statement, which is why I think he's going to play into Travis Browne's hand.
All right. Well, we shall see.
I already used that once, didn't
I? We can use. I can use your language. You can use my language. It's all right. It's all right. This is my favorite fight of UFC 200.
That's only
and not because I'm a New Jersey resident.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
Because when you see my pick, you're gonna be surprised a little bit. Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar for the interim featherweight title. And let's just get this out of the way. Conor McGregor's probably never going to fight at featherweight, so this is probably for the real belt at this point. Aldo, Edgar, they have fought once before with Jose Aldo winning by unanimous decision. This is going to be my favorite fight of the night. Are you excited for this? And I think it's kind of flown under the radar a little bit. Hasn't been mentioned as much with the Cormier Jones Lesnar Hunt co-main event. What are your feelings on Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar?
I think it has a potential to be a good fight, but I don't think, in my personal opinion, it's not going to live up to the hype.
It's not going to live up to the hype.
So to what MMA, people inside MMA think it's going to be. I don't. I think it's Frankie Edgar against the ghost of Jose Aldo.
The ghost of Jose Aldo.
Yes.
So you think Aldo's toast already?
I think you can't go into a fight like that thinking you're like the god of the world and have that showing and not have it do something to your mentality. As soon as Frankie Edgar tags him, it's going to be just like the fight we were talking about earlier. I can't remember which one it was, but as soon as he gets tagged, it's going to be, you're going to have with Zingano, the fight with Zingano. Yeah. As soon as you get tagged, it's going to be like, wait a minute, here we go again. And Edgar's going to have those shots. He's going to have it. And Aldo's going to come in like, hey, I got to prove that I'm this. And it's going to just, I personally think this is going to go badly for Aldo.
Wow. I'm surprised because when you see like that, when that happens, you get either two responses. You either get the one that you're talking about, or you get something where Aldo's going to be looking to, like, he was humbled greatly, so this is his opportunity to this is a redemption for Jose Aldo, and he didn't lose for 10 years. Like, that fight was so undersold, like what we got, because it was 7 seconds and bam, it was over. And I think with Aldo, I think he's healthy coming into this fight. He looks great. And I think Frankie's better than he's ever been. I think he's more powerful than he's ever been. Knocking out Chad Mendes is not easy to do. And when I saw Frankie kind of do that, it kind of set off an alarm in my head, like, I think this is a better Frankie Edgar than we've ever seen. And Aldo is so devastating when it comes to the strikes, and there's, like you said, there's two ways of looking at it. It's either going to be Frankie's going to overwhelm him and Aldo is going to go into that shell and he'll never be the same again. Of course, all of a sudden the rumors started with Aldo when the USADA drug testing happened, and then he goes out and gets destroyed by McGregor. All of a sudden he looks smaller, all that noise. I don't believe it, or hope.
Yeah, no, I'm not believing that.
Hope.
I don't think it's that. I honestly don't.
I think he's that. I think he's still that same fighter. I think he still has that same ability, and I think this is an opportunity for him to realize, oh, I got embarrassed in front of everyone. This is my opportunity to show them why no one should be laughing at me anymore, and why I want to fight Conor again, or I want to start a new reign of dominance over this division once more. Because when we talked about McGregor and Aldo back and forth, I legitimately thought Aldo had the advantage in that fight. And a lot of smart people did when they were evaluating these fights. It's like, because what's Conor going to be able to do with this and that? And this fight, to me, has so much to it. And when you see these strikings of Aldo, and Edgar can take a beating, he's been in the Octagon longer than anyone else, time-wise, in the UFC. He's an all-around ace. He can do anything. And that power has been the only thing that's pretty much lacked from his game, and now he's starting to gain a little bit. To me, this is the most intriguing fight of the night, and it's really close for me here. I need to make up some ground a little bit on you. I'm going to go with Jose Aldo in this fight.
It's all right. You'll just fall further and further back. That's not the right answer.
I don't think I'm allowed to, given the fact that I live in New Jersey, but I feel it's going to be great. I feel like it's going to be another decision, and I feel like Aldo's going to win.
I just think Aldo is just not where he's just mentally. I don't think he's got the mental part of the fighting down to where he had it after that loss. I just think, look, it's one thing to lose like a close contest or something. You're like, oh man, I made that one mistake, and he really only made one mistake. He charged in like a bull and caught the punch. But to have that build up, like, oh, here's the God, and then you have the one guy saying, you're nothing. All I got to do is land one punch and you're going down. And he lands that one punch and you go down. I mean, that's gonna mess with you mentally.
I mean, McGregor's got more powerful hands than Edgar.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that Edgar's gonna like knock him out with one punch or anything. But what I'm saying though is that when he starts again, if Edgar nails him with something, and again, takedown defense, Aldo's great. You know, he's at 91% right now. So, but say Edgar, boom, he nails a punch. Aldo doesn't think that, he takes him down. What's going to start going through Aldo's mind? Like, oh, here we go again.
That's got to be the careful mentality here. And then
I mean, he's got the reach advantage where he can keep Edgar away, but I think Edgar's going to be like a little pit bull. He's going to be that little chihuahua, just keep nibbling at the heel, nibbling at the heel, nibbling at the heel, and then he's going to ultimately end up getting in and winning this fight.
He's got to be careful of those knees, man. I'm telling you, this is. It's all you're right. It just comes down to the mentality of Aldo. If Aldo has his mental facilities back and he doesn't get bothered by this, I think Aldo wins. and it's not going to be as close as some people think. But if not, Frankie's got a legitimate opportunity here because that fight was closer than a lot of people think their first fight.
Yeah.
So I believe in Jose Aldo. That's what this pick comes down to.
Frankie Edgar, the guy from Florida, believes in you. You're the answer.
I apologize for turning my back on New Jersey and Frankie, but I think Aldo's has got more ability. And I mean, this is the second Brazilian I'm taking to win a title fight.
No.
I won't be taking 3 Brazilians to take win the title fight, and it hasn't gone well for them recently. So hopefully the UFC 200 week is a change for the better, because man, they're losing champions left and right, and who knows what happens when Aldo and Edgar go at it. But I am picking Jose Aldo. You were taking Frankie Edgar in this fight. It's going to be fun for me. Like, I can't wait for this fight more than probably any other fight on this card. Now we're getting closer and closer to the main event, Sean. We're getting with another championship fight. This is a true championship fight, if you want to mention that. We're part of the interim belts that you love so much. Miesha Tate, Amanda Nunes for the bantamweight champion of the world. I think this one is easier to call than any fight on the pay-per-view card. I don't know if you agree with me on this. Miesha Tate's the better fighter here. If she doesn't look past Amanda Nunes, which there is a real possibility of that happening, the way she's been talking about Rousey, and she's being asked so many questions, people were forgetting that, Amanda Nunes is the person you're fighting at 200. I think if Miesha Tate has her head in the game, doesn't look past her, I think this is an easy win. What are your feelings on this fight?
I just have one question. What title defense is this for her?
This is her first title defense.
I'm going with Nunes.
You're going with Amanda Nunes. Is that the only reason why the champion?
I think she's got power, man. And I know Tate is the better all around fighter. Yes, I understand this. But I think she's looking past her, man. She has said not much about Nunes, except so recently, because somebody's like, as you said, you're not really fighting them there. You're fighting Nunes at 200, and then she made a comment about, I'm not looking past her. I think you are.
To me, cupcake. She's a smarter fighter. Like, we know what Tate is. She's a person that makes these fights.
Wait. You know what Tate before champion was. She's got gold now.
All right.
She's got gold now.
That's fair. It's fair. I'm just saying, from a pure analysis standpoint, if we're going to take that out of it.
Oh, yeah. I know. If you're going to go pure wise, I think you have to give the nod to Tate. I
think it's easy.
Yeah, an easy nod. It's an easy nod. It is. It is.
I love how you're saying this. I can't see you right now, but you're saying this with the biggest grin on your face.
Oh no, definitely I am. Because I think if I'm picking, like if I'm a computer and you put these two in there and you put all their numbers and their skills and everything, 99.9% of the time I'm probably spitting out Miesha Tate.
Yeah.
But I factor in that whole thing, the championship
you factor
thing.
In the fact that it's mixed martial arts. That's what you factor in.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if you factor in the numbers, this is easily, everybody's picking Tate.
Yeah. With good reason.
Good reason, yes, but I just think, you know what? The title thing is it's funny to say every time, but it really seems like it changes their style or their mentality or something every time they get their first title defense. That's why there's so much separation, I think, in the UFC right now, because championships are like just getting every fight. They're just getting handed over to the next fighter, and it's good, I think, for UFC, because you're having, instead of the matchup where it's like, when Silva was champion for it felt like 20 years.
Yeah.
You always had that style against, you were trying to, and it just didn't seem to always work on some of the heavyweight fights. Now you're getting all these fights where it's like, you start watching heavyweight fights because you don't know what's going to happen. It's not just so much as like, oh, Silva's going to beat that guy, but I want to watch it to see how quickly he beats the guy. Now it's like, you know what? I don't know if they're going to keep the belt this time. So I think it's opened up a good thing to the UFC, but I just think there's that, and then you got a fighter that anytime, to me, if I look at a knockout percentage and it's over 70% of their fights, their wins, I think my new thing is I'm going to probably go with them because of the
Holly Holm
Miocic and Holly Holm. Yeah, well, Holly Holm, Stipe Miocic, those fighters, 99.9% of the time, you would have put that in the computer, it would have spit out Rousey. It would have spit out, Verdum. But I think that has something to do with the mixed martial arts. It's not just this skill. It's not just that skill. And Miesha Tate has the more rounded skill, but I still think it comes down to if you can land one punch and you got knockout power, I don't see how you can predict against them.
Yeah. This is the reason why I'm picking Tate. And it's literally all of the other reasons why, that you've talked about. Nunes looked not great against Valentina Shevchenko. It didn't look like she has a gas tank. This is a 5-round fight. She she lost to Zingano. I just haven't seen a championship pedigree from Amanda Nunes. And the same reason why I'm talking about the Eddie Alvarez fight, but he had a win over Anthony Pettis. I just haven't seen her against a high level competition. Of course, we saw the same with Holly Holm, and she knocked out Ronda Rousey. So we don't know. We don't know what goes on. We can't be inside the people's heads here.
Yep.
But to me, Tate's can't be dumb enough to. She's one of the most intelligent fighters in the UFC. She can't be dumb enough to overlook her opponent. She's got to be. She'll be smart. She's not going to dive right in. There's no real hate between these two. It's not going to be it's going to be her first championship fight, as you mentioned, and emotions were running high. We saw the last time when she was in that championship fight, she got in the octagon and screamed at the top of her lungs, and she had to be careful in the beginning. But if she early's at Weather Storm, I think the fight it's no contest. I think Tate is just going to overwhelm.
You throw the fuel tank thing in there, but if she can land a punch, it's not going to go 5. If she can land one of those punches, it's not going to go 5. Tate, again, and I'm looking at it differently as far as, I agree with you. Tate, on paper, should just walk in and pretty much do her thing and go to the fight and win this fight. But I just don't see it. I think, again, I say overlooking maybe, but I think she's going to be there to see, look, you got these other fighters, fighting right before you on the prelim card. Say, Zingano and Pena. One of them look superb. You think the champion ain't got to go out there and make a statement?
Well, I hope she keeps her nerve.
I mean, it's gonna again. She's one of the, as you said, she's one of the smartest fighters. She's one of the things. But if you start getting, punched in the head, if you start getting punched in the face, you start feeling like you're falling behind on the cards. Yeah, you have a camp there trying to tell you, hey, okay, unless you're Rousey, you don't want to listen to your camp. But anyway, that's another point. But hopefully the camp's not like, hey, look, you're behind. You need to do this. Are you listening to them? Are you there? Again, once those cage doors close, Miesha Tate seems like she's very cool, calm, collected. But if you're there and you see Zingano or Pena, and hopefully for me it's Pena, look superb, and they start calling you out and hey, win this fight and then I'll dominate you. Do you look? She's already looking past people that are should be fighting her next and looking ahead. Is Rousey coming back and things like that? So you can't tell me that she's got focused on Nunes. I just don't believe it.
All right. Moving on to the co-main event of UFC 200, something that did not exist until a couple of weeks ago. The guy with the greatest chest tattoo that I've ever seen in Brock Lesnar fighting against the Super Samoan, Mark Hunt. First of all, this is happening, Sean. Brock Lesnar is on this card. This is amazing. This is incredible. And he's fighting Mark Hunt in the dream matchup that I never thought I wanted until they actually made it happen.
No, isn't it funny? Like, once you don't know about a dream fight until they make it, and then you're like, you know what? That's the fight I want to see.
It's like the Carlos Condit Damian Maia fight that's been made for UFC 202, which I'm like, this is amazing. Okay, I'm totally in on that. I'm totally in on this fight.
Yeah.
Lesnar, Hunt, I've watched the past couple fights for each guy. We'll have a preview up next week on the FullMountMMA.com that you can find out everything you want about this fight, but we're breaking it down right now. I watched back the UFC 100 main event between Frank Mir and Brock Lesnar, and it made me pause just for a second, because that was probably the last time we've seen Lesnar at full peak Lesnar in the Octagon before diverticulitis clearly sucked the life out of him. Mm-hmm. Again, at UFC 100, we don't know because USADA is now involved with the UFC and the sport's never been cleaner. UFC 100, let's just say Frank Mir looked immaculate. And I mean, Lesnar's always been a big dude, and he shrugged off any steroid and performance-enhancing drug stuff when he was asked about USADA and all that on the conference call this week, saying, "I'm a white boy and I'm jacked, and that bothers some people." Lesnar, watching that fight back, I saw ferocity, I saw animosity, I saw no regard for human life when I saw him in the cage. And it made me just pause just for a second and think about it, because I've talked about this. I'm picking Mark Hunt to win this fight. Watching Lesnar, though, the dude is one of the most intimidating human beings on the planet. And I know he hasn't fought for a while, and he said he's only been training for weeks. But am I crazy here to think that, wait a second, maybe Brock can win this fight?
I don't think you're crazy, because they're just going to sit there and punch each other. I mean, ultimately, I believe that is what's going to happen here. You got one guy that with a reach of 81, one guy with 72. I'll let you try to figure out which one's which. But, you know, I mean, look, Brock Lesnar, there's no hiding what his – I mean, if you watch the Brock Lesnar fight, he charges at you like a bull.
Yep.
If you can weather that off, or you can land something to stagger him, then you might have an opportunity. If not, he's going to smother you. And he can take you down. He's an all-American wrestler. And then he's got a little bit of skills on the ground. Again, you can say, look, I've been training for 2 weeks. No, you've been training for this fight for 2 weeks. He has a gym, and most of his training is MMA training. Yeah, he hasn't been training for fighting and mixed martial arts fighting like UFC competition, but I don't think he's ever not like kept training up. Because if you start looking at him, yeah, he looks a little bit slimmer. He looks a little bit, when he wrestles, he's looking a little bit slimmer, a little bit, you know, I don't think he's doing like the weights, or as he used to say, he used to do bales of hay and you know, he used to do the country boy workout and things like that. I think now he's implementing more of the MMA style into his thing, so he's more flexible. He's more, and again, the diverticulitis isn't gone though. That's something like now I think it's controlled more than what it was before, but it's not gone. That, you know, again, but I think they put him in there with a great opponent. I mean, it's not like he's got to worry about Mark Hunt doing crazy stuff. You know, he's probably just going to sit there and throw punches at you or try to take you down and ground and pound you. That's what you got to watch out for. And
but unfortunately, the flash knockout.
And unfortunately for Lesnar, that's one of his things that he's known to get caught with.
He doesn't like getting punched in the face.
He wore a shirt to the cage one time.
Yeah,
because I don't like punching. but again, this is that fight where, look, I don't know if he's ready for it, but I'm going with Lesnar just because he's going to charge like a bull, and Hunt's only got 72-inch reach. Is he going to be able to time it perfectly? If he can time a punch perfectly, it's going to be done. But is he going to be able to? Because Lesnar's going to try to smother him with the wrestling. So does Lesnar miscalculate something and get in too close to get caught by one of those punches? Is Hunt quick enough to land like a flash punch real quick? again, all these things is just, it's going to be a great fight, but I just think that the power of Lesnar, and I know Hunt's got some power, punching power, but I think he gets in and he gets to where he stays far enough away for Hunt not to land a punch, and then he gets in quick enough to where he doesn't land that knockout punch, and I think he controls it on the ground, and I think he's going to be able to win this.
It's such a weird thing, because the closer and closer I've gotten to this fight, the more and more I've like, I don't know. I think, can Brock Lesnar win this? Can Brock Lesnar win this? And you're absolutely right. He can really win this fight. And we're not talking ourselves into this as much as just realizing that Lesnar is he's a former UFC heavyweight champion. It wasn't just a gimmick. Yeah. This guy was the baddest man on the planet. And Mark Hunt, he can punch the lights out of anybody. Was Frank Mir Brock Lesnar? Not even close.
No.
At that point. And I don't want to go back on my pick, but I think I'm going Lesnar here.
I think what's funny is you look at him, he has 8 fights, okay?
Yeah.
His takedown average is almost 4.
Which is...
average per fight now. This is not, it's per fight. You're looking at...
And how long are these fights going?
Not long, because if you look at it, like, Alistair Overeem, which was a loss, there was nothing but punches in that one. With Mir, he took Mir down, and then Mir locked in the leg lock. Was it Velasquez?
Yeah.
There wasn't much there either, because Velasquez landed, again, most of his losses, other than Mir, have been the quick punch, which Hunt has, or the punching power Hunt has. I don't know if he can land it quick enough or throw it quick enough, because he usually throws from downtown. At least most of the fights I've seen of Mark Hunt, he's winding up and throwing. Can he throw that quick jab, at least to like get him to stand up to land a big punch? That's something that I need to see, because I think if he can't, then I think Lesnar's just going to smother him.
There's a very real possibility of that, and that's why the more and more I've thought about it, I think Lesnar is the safer pick, because if he can get inside his guard here and take Mark Hunt down, because we know how strong Brock is.
Well, here's another thing too that I don't know if anybody's really taking into effect is, I don't know about Hunt. Lesnar's got to cut weight to make 265.
I think he does, yeah.
No, he does. He usually walks around about 280.
So, and it's weird, because when we first heard the UFC rumors about Lesnar, that was way back at WrestleMania 31, when he had the decision on SportsCenter.
Mm-hmm.
Brock got more and more. If you watch Mania 31 back and you watch those Raws leading up, he looks thinner. He looks cut. He looks in MMA shape.
Yeah, I think he was trying to see how his body would react, and I don't think he cut it right. So I think his body didn't react the way he thought he could to come back then. But then I think he kept the same thing going for a period of time, and now I think he thinks he's got it under thing. Because again, diverticulitis is not. You got to watch what you eat.
Yep.
You got to watch. There's certain things that causes flare-ups. It could be there one day, and then you eat something wrong, and then boom, it just flares up, and it's not a. It's a how do you say that word? Debilitating.
Debilitating.
Debilitating. Thank you very much. Pain.
No problem.
To where it's hard to stand up.
It's
you almost
think about when you just have
pain.
a regular stomach ache.
Yeah.
How bad that feels.
Yeah.
And then multiply that by 1,000.
Yep. Exactly. And then try getting kicked in the stomach.
Mark Hunt has knocked out Roy Nelson.
Yeah.
Bigfoot Silva.
Yep.
And Frank Mir in his last 3 wins.
Yeah.
Those aren't a murderer's row.
No, it's not. But also, it's guys that when you look at it, you look at Roy Nelson. He's been in fights.
Yes.
It's not like he just he knocked them out.
Yeah.
Mir, but when you start Silva's, but
it's this is the most unpredictable fight of the night for me.
Well, yeah, because you don't know what you're going to get with Lesnar. Again, we talk about all these layoffs and these comebacks. This is 5 years.
It's a long time.
We're not talking
about long time
about guys
out of the Octagon and all of a sudden come in.
And you're talking about some of these other guys that trained and this is what they do. Like Dominic Cruz, he was still working at it. I don't know how much. I know Lesnar has the gym that he trains at and things like that. But again, there's difference between training and working out to training for competition.
Yeah.
You know, and then my other question is this: if it goes 3 rounds, can either of these guys make it? I mean, with UFC competition, I mean, look, there's a different cardio between pro wrestling, UFC, and Hunt. I've never seen really pushed to recently anyway, to a 3rd round. So, I mean, that's another thing, you know, these guys go that distance. What's going to look like in the 3rd round? I mean, you never know.
Just to put this out there, Lesnar's never gone to decision.
No.
Oh, he's gone to decision once. He beat Heath Herring.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Herring. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So once out of his fight. And the last time Mark Hunt went to a decision was against Bigfoot Silva in 2013. And then prior to that, it was a win over Ben Rothwell in 2011. So there will be a finish, folks.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
Cormier
that.
and Jones are hoping this is going to go a little bit longer because, they want to, like...
Get some time.
Yeah.
I'm going Lesnar. I've probably changed my mind 3 other times before the fight happens. But for on paper, for our picking challenge, Sean, I'm going to go Lesnar. You're going Lesnar as well for this fight?
Yeah, that you had Hunt, though. Before you started this whole segment with I'm going Hunt.
I know.
And in a matter of a segment, you have changed your mind.
I have convinced myself that each guy is going to win at least 4 different times this week. I watched Mark Hunt knock out Frank Mir and Bigfoot Silva on my train rides to and from New York City. Then I watched Lesnar fight against Mir twice. And I was looking at the fights where Lesnar was healthy, if that's the way you want to put it. And that man is somebody you do not want to have locked in a cage with you. So... I don't even know at this point. Honestly, it's just going to be amazing to watch. It could be the most fun fight of the night, just based on the scenario. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how Brock's going to react. We know what we're going to get out of Mark Hunt. He's going to throw, like you mentioned, it's a shorter reach for him by 9 inches, which
look, there's no hiding the fact that the UFC kind of this is a hand-picked opponent for Lesnar. It's a calculated pick by the UFC for the type of fight.
Pick.
It's a dangerous pick, no, but it's not one to where, okay, Lesnar, you got a month for UFC 200, now you got to train for a guy that can do Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, this and that. No, you got Mark Hunt. He's going to come at you and throw punches.
Yeah.
And try to knock your head off.
Brock, don't get hit in the face or you won't wake up.
Well, no, yeah, exactly. So to me, it's a calculated pick, a dangerous one.
Yep.
But it's somebody that, okay, look, you only have to worry about this. Because, look, if I'm Brock Lesnar, I'm not coming back to take on, I mean, I don't think that he ducked the challenge of it, but at the same time, do you come back to take on a guy that you have to worry about, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, everything else where you're trying to get ready for all these elements that you got, and you got a month to set up to walk into what? Not know what you're going to, at least this way, I know Mark Hunt's going to come out to knock my head off. All I got to worry about is what I got to worry about and not getting hit.
Mark Hunt goes for a takedown to start the fight.
Oh, 100%. 100%. 100%. He just goes to...
No idea what's going to happen this way. And it'll do it like as a tactic, but Brock will just take him and just make him a wrestling dummy.
Yep. And then you see the coach hand Lesnar a foreign object from outside the cage. It's going to be great.
My God, he's hit him with a chair.
There's thumbtacks in the cage.
69 thumbtacks in his back. Oh my gosh, it's going to be great. I can't wait for the co-main event, and it's going to be great. I've got Lesnar, you got Lesnar. I'll probably change to Hunt 3 different times, like I mentioned before watching this bout on Saturday.
Well, you have to text me, let me know each time you change, so I know what your final pick is.
We can keep it for the fans, so they know how much I'm flip flopping on Brock Lesnar's first UFC fight.
Here we go.
Main event time. Daniel Cormier, Jon Jones. We've made it all this way, Sean, in one recording.
Yeah.
EC, Jon Jones, UFC 200. Break it down for us here. Who do you have and why? Let's jump, because we know we've seen these guys fight before. We know what the whole setup is. We know with Jones. We saw him fight against OSP. The ring rust is off. He's one of the best fighters, if not the greatest fighter in the history of the UFC. this and Cormier has been absolutely outstanding on a tear, the best he's ever looked. I think this is the best possible fight that you can put together in mixed martial arts today. Who do you got and why?
Well, I was going to let you go first on this one there,
all right,
Brian, because I want to see where you're leaning toward here, because I might surprise you.
You might surprise me. Well, I know it's going to happen there. Jon Jones is going to win this fight. I think it's going to be very close. I think it's going to be much closer than their last fight, where Jones was able to kind of do what he wanted with Cormier. And, of course, he got taken down a couple times. But the longer that fight went on, DC was not able to handle what Jones was putting out. And for me, I think all the passes in the past for Jones, that was the whole build up to 197. At 197, I might have picked Cormier to win this. But this is 200. I think this is Jones. This is his time to finally put his staple on the fact that he can be the greatest of all time in this sport. He's going to have to be wary of DC when it comes to obviously the wrestling, obviously the takedowns. He's going to have to utilize that range. He's got to keep his distance. He's got to be able to throw those elbows, and he stuffs takedowns incredibly well. He can do pretty much anything you ask for, and I think he beats Cormier in a fight where you might see DC get a little bit desperate towards the end of the fight, and I think Jones wins by stoppage in either the fourth or the fifth round. But I think DC can absolutely win this fight. Just the way I've seen it happen, the way I've seen him progress as a champion, the heart that he's shown against Alexander Gustafsson, the way he just completely shut down Anthony Johnson. I watched that fight back. He just made him look like you took the guns away from the most powerful puncher in the UFC. And I think Jones can come at you in so different ways, and I think that reach is going to be paramount. As long as he can stuff these takedowns and not get suplexed, which we've seen Cormier do to Jones before, which is a jarring image, but he's got to be able to do something with it. And if he can do something to Jones with that, he's got a shot. But to me, he stuffed 95% of the takedowns he's ever faced, Jon Jones. And I think he is going to win his belt back and become the light heavyweight champion of the world. Once again, he's basically undefeated. That disqualification laws, obviously, people talk about it, doesn't really count in the minds of pretty much everybody. I got Jones here. I'm guessing you have something up your sleeve, a little bit of a surprise for me.
Well, no, I think Jones is going to have his way with Cormier.
Yeah.
And I think we get the Silva-Weidman effect happen in this fight. I think Jon Jones is going to, think he's got it right where he wants it. And I believe it's going to open up for Cormier. And Cormier retains his title in the fourth round.
You think we get a Cormier knockout?
Not say knockout, but he's going to open it up to where it's going to be a stoppage in the fourth round for Cormier retaining his title due to Jon Jones. I think he's gonna outclass Cormier for a bulk of the fight, and I think he's gonna get comfortable and do his Jon Jones thing and open up a window for just like what Silva did with Weidman, and Cormier's gonna take advantage of it, and then we get the trilogy.
That would be an absolute stunning end to 200. It'd be the most. I mean, it's already shaping up to be the most memorable fight card of all time. But man, if that happens, you can have if that happens, you know what? I'll give you +2. We'll make the fight worth more for you if you can accurately predict Cormier doing that. I will give you more points for that because man, if that happens, I may just start just going through all the fights from now on. Yeah, man. I don't see that happening as much as as much as a professional wrestling writer that you are. Yeah, see that's my problem. That's my problem. That's where I go wrong on some of this stuff. Yeah, and that's why I'm so. But I just think with Jon Jones, like he's gonna I think with the reach thing he's gonna frustrate Cormier, and I think he's gonna be doing exactly what Jon Jones said he's gonna do, and I have the feeling. Not saying he's gonna sit there
and like, you know, start dancing and all this stuff. But I think he's going to leave an opening to where he's going to get comfortable, lackadaisical, that he's got Cormier where he wants him, and it's going to allow Cormier to come back into this fight, and Cormier is going to take advantage of it and out of nowhere get the victory.
I think Jones is, for lack of a better word, I think he's too good for that when it comes to finishing fights. I think he's too smart.
But wouldn't you said the same thing about Silva when he was fighting Weidman? Wouldn't we have said the same thing at that point?
Well, Silva got caught because I think
he started juking and jiving like he was dodging
Jones
the
doesn't
air.
do that, though.
Huh?
Jones doesn't do that.
No, but I'm saying is, I'm not saying he's going to sit there and dance. But what I'm saying is he's going to get lackadaisical, like, oh, okay, I got this fight, and it's going to allow Cormier to come back in. He's not going to be. I think if Jones is Jones, he's going to frustrate him. He's going to instill his will. But I think at some point he's going to be like, I got this fight. I'm up. I got this fight, and it's going to allow Cormier to come back in and steal the victory.
It's funny because I think Cormier wins the first round.
No.
I think Jones kind of just he tries to get a read on him in the beginning. Because Jones, for as dominant as he is he the most exciting fighter in the world? Not really. I mean, watching that OSP fight, everyone's like, "Oh, he sucks." He's not the same guy. I mean, he has a lot of ring rust. He broke OSP's arm in the third round. He was all over him in rounds. I mean, it was unanimous. I thought he won every round, but he got stronger and stronger as the fight went on. I think there's more of an opportunity for Cormier to win early rather than late, actually, when it comes to this fight. I just think Jones, I think those elbows are going to be the biggest problem because they're so devastating, they're so sharp, and if Cormier gets hit in the head with a couple of those, I think it's really tough. But again, remember, Daniel Cormier has lost how many fights in his career, Sean? 1.
Yeah.
2 Jon Jones.
Yep.
So for all the people who are selling DC short, please don't.
No, I don't think it's. Look, when I say Jon Jones is going to outclass, I just mean he's going to frustrate him. He's going to stick
for sure.
and move and things like that. But I don't mean like he's going to be dominating him, like on the ground, elbowing him and everything else like that. I think he's almost going to. I want to say play with the prey a little bit, kind of like. Yeah. I just feel like that's what's going to happen. Is going to allow Cormier to where he's not going to take a lot of punishment, but Jones is going to kind of like stick and move kind of thing, just set up to where Cormier doesn't have a lot of damage to him, and it's going to allow for something. I just think that it's going to be not a thing where Cormier's just dominating the fight to win it. It's going to be somewhere like all of a sudden, boom, suplex, somehow he's into a position and the fight's over.
All right. I mean, that would be stunning. I would love to. I mean, who knows? Because these are the two best athletes, the 2 best fighters at light heavyweight. Obviously, I mean, Jones, in my opinion, is the best fighter in the UFC. Cormier is certainly up there.
I just like how
5.
UFC.com already got Jones in the gold. That's pretty good.
Really?
Yeah, they got Jones in the gold championship trunks, and Cormier's in his black monster tights.
It's funny because this is the first time I think we'll get to see the new colors from the kits.
So are all the belts on the poster, or is that just a McGregor thing?
I don't know because it's funny because I saw a fan made a poster which actually kind of looked better than the original UFC 200 poster, and Dana White on Twitter tweeted at the fan and said it was horrible. So I couldn't.
Well, it's because they didn't make it. It's terrible.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, 200 is going to be an absolute showcase of the best that this sport has to offer. If you're on the fence about buying it for some reason, we can't help you because you should be buying it. You should be watching all of these fights this weekend. You're not going to get a better fight card until maybe UFC 300. Who knows? But this is the biggest event in mixed martial arts history. I can't even begin to describe my excitement for it, Sean.
What? Dana White's got to be happy about this week, too, because now the talk is on UFC 200 and not on
the sale,
the thing that everybody's kind of not talking about anymore.
which is going to happen probably after UFC 200.
Or at UFC. Maybe it's the big announcement. Maybe someone will break it and get their credentials taken away.
See, that's one of those things. They got to not get in their own way. They've got such a great card. They got such a great setup. Yeah. Don't get in your own way.
Nope,
here.
exactly. Just
let the fights happen.
International Fight Week. Let it happen. MMA fans, enjoy this because it's going to be a great 3 days of fighting. And you get a press conference thrown in just for kicks.
And I want to thank everybody for listening. If they're still hanging with us through the entirety of this podcast, again, we'll have this special edition of the show as a full podcast that you can subscribe and download on iTunes. Every single preview that we've put together. If you're just listening to this single preview on YouTube, we're going to have every single fight that we've talked about in a separate YouTube and audio clip that you can listen to on your own time. We'll have previews of every single meaningful fight on this card and on throughout the weekend on the FullMountMMA.com. We will be tweeting stuff out, breaking down fight cards. If you've got any questions about the fight, if you want to talk, you want to explain to me while I'm wrong about something, or you want to give your analysis on the fight, don't hesitate to tweet us. We love fan interaction.
Definitely tweet at me and let me know why I'm right. Appreciate it.
At SS Sports Talk for Sean, at BCoyle11 for me. You'll see plenty of stuff going up on the FullMountMMA.com, which you can find on Twitter at the Full Mount. You subscribe to us, like I mentioned, on iTunes. Type in the Full Mount MMA. It's TFM Live. You could just download the podcast app on your phone. Just click subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review. Let us know how we're doing. If there's anything you want more out of the site, let us know. We're always looking for new ideas. We're always looking to make this site the best possible thing for you guys, fans, because that's what keeps us going. That's what motivates us to continue to do what we do apart from our regular jobs. This is it's a fantastic opportunity that we've had, and we love to do it, and we love to continue to do it. So let us know. Subscribe to the show. Follow us on Twitter. Head over to the website. Sean, I can't wait for Fight Week. This is going to be incredible.
In the words of the great Jim Ross, it's going to be a slobber knocker.
I can't wait. Thank you guys for listening to the TFM Live Podcast. We're out.
The TFM Live Podcast is brought to you by TheFullMountMMA.com. Check us out on Twitter at The Full Mount. The Full Mount.